Today on our 2014 Audi Q5, we're going to be installing the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number C13136. Now here's what our hitch looks like installed on our vehicle. Now we'll go ahead and give you a couple measurements in helping you choose some accessories for your hitch, such as a ball mount, a bicycle rack, or a cargo carrier. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost edge of the bumper is approximately 6 inches. From the top of the opening in the receiver to the ground is approximately 12 inches. Now let's go ahead and install our hitch. We're going to go ahead and begin here. We're going to remove this center door section before we begin our installation. To do that, you simply turn each of the tabs here 90 degrees. Go ahead and set that out of the way. Next, we're going to need to remove 4 T20 Torx head screws. There's 2 here at the middle. And then there's also 1 up in each wheel well. There's 1 here, and then there's 1 in the same location over on the other side. We'll go ahead and remove these 4 Torx head screws. Next, we're going to need to remove the snap tab. There's 1 on each side that helps hold this bracing in place. You just simply push it forward and pull it out like that. Go ahead and repeat the same process over on the other side. Now that we have the 4 screws and the 2 bracing tabs removed, before we can actually pull the lower fascia part off of the vehicle, you'll notice that there's 4 backup sensors here, and we'll have to unplug them from the backside or as we're pulling it off, since they're connected by wires. In order to remove each of the wiring connections from the sensor tab, we'll have to push in on its locking tab and gently pull outward. Now that we have our 4 sensors unplugged, now we're ready to pull out, and you'll notice that there's little plastic tabs or snaps that hold it in place. You may need to put your finger in behind it and gently push down to work it out initially, and then you'll just gently work along the whole lower fascia from one side to the other, removing the little snaps or the plastic clips. So once you get the first one started, just work your hand in along the backside and gently pull outward, and it'll continue to release the snaps. We can go ahead and set this lower fascia aside for now. Next, we're going to go ahead and put a safety strap in place to help support the exhaust once we remove the hangers from them. So we're going to go ahead and hook our safety strap up. Go ahead and pull it tight. Now with our safety strap in place, now we're going to remove 2 bolts from each side that attach the exhaust hanger to the vehicle's frame. Next, we're going to need to cut out 2 of these 3 rubber plugs. We'll be cutting out the 2 that are farthest forward. So these 2 right here is what we'll be trimming out. Just going to take a razor knife, go around the edge. Go ahead and pull that out. Then we'll repeat the same process over on the other side. Next, we're going to go ahead and install our 1/2-inch carriage bolt and our square hole spacer block into this hole and this hole here. We have our carriage bolt and our spacer block in. We'll slide it in like that. We can go ahead and twist it around so that it's like that. We're going to go ahead and take our gasket maker here. We're going to put a good seal all the way around. We're going to be using Loctite RTV 598 silicone gasket maker, part number LT37467. Go ahead and repeat that same process for the other hole. So now that we have our carriage bolts, our spacer blocks, and our silicone sealant around each hole, we'll go ahead and get an extra set of hands to help us raise the hitch up into position, and then we'll loosely install each of the flange nuts just to support the hitch. Now before we raise our hitch up into position here, we're going to go ahead and install each of the U-bolts. We found that it's much easier to go ahead and install the U-bolts first and leave one of the pull wires or fish wires attached to one end in case you would accidentally push it back into the frame here. You can pull it back through. So we'll go ahead and put our fish wire on. We're going to be going through these two holes here, and we'll feed it through this top hole first. I'm going to go ahead and kind of pre-bend the fish wire here so that it comes right back out. Now we'll go ahead and take our U-bolt, we'll feed it in. Something like that. Now that we have our U-bolts installed, we'll make sure that each of our exhaust brackets are in the upright position here, as we'll be sandwiching the hitch between the bracket and the frame. Now it's a good idea here to get an extra set of hands to help you raise the hitch up into position. Now when raising the hitch up into position, we actually had to push each of the U-bolts back in, keeping the fish wire connected to it. We'll go ahead and loosely install each of the 1/2-inch flange nuts. Now with our hitch held into position, we can go ahead and raise it back up and work each of the U-bolts back through both of the holes. Once you get the U-bolt started, we'll go ahead and put our flange nut on. This way it keeps it from going back into the frame. Go ahead then and take our fish wire off the other side, add our other flange nut. We'll go ahead then and repeat the same process over on the driver's side. Now that we have the hardware installed loosely on both of the U-bolts, we'll go ahead and put the second bolt back in here that holds the exhaust. Now that we have all of our hardware installed, we'll go ahead and tighten down the bolts by starting with the 1/2-inch bolts, then moving to the factory 8mm bolts that we removed earlier, and finally going up to each of the U-bolts. And then we'll come back and torque them to the manufacturer's specification. Now that we have all the hardware tightened and torqued down, we can go ahead and remove our safety strap. And then we'll need to reinstall the rear fascia in the reverse order that we removed it, making sure that once it's back in place, we plug back in the 4 backup sensors. Now that we have the rear fascia back up in place, that'll do it for our installation of the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver, part number C13136, on our 2014 Audi Q5.